A congressman-elect by the name of Luke Letlow from Louisiana has died from coronavirus. He was only 41 years old and had no pre-existing conditions. So he's the exact type of person you would expect to, pull through and survive this awful virus. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. Letlow was supposed to be sworn into Congress on Sunday. So again, he did just win the election and was supposed to be a Republican representative in the House of Representatives. He tested positive for coronavirus on December 18th. By December 19th, he was already in an intensive care unit receiving treatment. But unfortunately, it was just reported recently that he died as a result of that virus. Now, what's important to point out here, in my opinion, and I'm not going to get into a discussion about like, oh, he's Republican, so maybe he was one of these he wasn't a denier. He seemed to take the virus seriously. He had made arguments about opening the economy up, which, I might disagree, but he didn't come across as someone who didn't take the virus seriously. He was pictured wearing masks and, all of that. But what I do think is important to talk about is how healthcare works in this country and how the messaging coming from the Trump administration specifically and people like Rudy Giuliani has been so utterly toxic and irresponsible because they contracted the virus. They received top grade treatment, experimental drugs, they survived. And they keep talking about coronavirus as if everyone has access to that same healthcare. They don't. They don't. Clearly, this congressman-elect did not have the same access as Trump and Giuliani did. And so this question, by the way, came up during a recent interview on CNN. So let's take a look at how Representative Adam Kinzinger responded to this.
Do you have any idea why someone like Rudy Giuliani, in the first days of his illness, gets to have the Regeneron antibody cocktail in a hospital? He's not an essential worker, but regular people like Luke Letlow don't get something like that, access to that therapeutic?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I did read an article recently that doctors were actually pretty astounded that that's not being given to people more often, basically that there's plenty of it, but maybe the doctors that are initially treating it aren't using it because they think it's more rare. I don't know the answer.
So I completely disagree with that take by Kinzinger because it just puts the onus on, hospitals and doctors and it makes it seem as though it's their fault for not providing this treatment. But the truth is, again, like there is a two-tiered healthcare system here where people in positions of power, people with wealth get the best treatment, and people who can't afford it oftentimes don't get the treatment that they need. For instance, monoclonal antibody treatments approved over the last 20 years cost an average of $96,731, according to a study in the Global Journal on Quality and Safety in Healthcare. Trump's treatment with them would probably cost even more than that because he took the equivalent of more than 3 doses of Regeneron's treatment. So quadruple the cost because for most medicines, you can't buy a partial dose. So that's $386,924. Now, if you have private health insurance, you're not going to pay that exact amount out of pocket. Your insurance will cover some of it, of course, but you're still going to pay quite a bit out of pocket, and most Americans can't afford it. But to talk about this as if this treatment is there. Why don't the doctors just give it to people? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't even have health insurance right now. A lot of people lost their jobs and their employer provided health insurance that goes along with it. What is he talking about?
Yeah, and having to deal with just the let's imagine that you don't have access to those amazing meds, but you spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the hospital, and then you eventually make it out. I mean, God only knows how much you're going to end up paying after that, and that's just for that stay. That's not taking into account the additional costs that you're going to bear based on the long-term damage that it's been shown to do to a number of the body's systems. So that's absolutely insane. I would have assumed that in this case he would have gotten access to that stuff. I mean, the fact that he was a congressman-elect, you'd think well, he's one of their people. They're going to care about him. And by the way, I don't know that we know 100% for sure exactly what he got, but it doesn't seem, we haven't had any evidence that he's gotten that incredibly rare stuff that seems to have been restricted to people like Trump and maybe Rudy Giuliani